It's shiny. It's awesome. It's cool. It's a piece of hardware that I can give for my baby boy.
Porque eu não comi nada antes.
You know, absolutely. Hold on, I'm talking, brother. 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 Hold on, I'm talking, brother.
Hello, and welcome back to Hold On, I'm Talking, Brother. My name is Joe Greenwood, and you are listening to our UFC 276 review. Adesanya versus Cannonier for the middleweight title, and Volkanovski versus Holloway 3 for the featherweight title. And Tom Ballum, on a card that we predicted to be epic, shall we say, did it deliver?
Oh, I mean, that was some heavy billing. Got a lot to live up to. So we kind of set it up to fall short.
Absolutely.
But it was a good card, Joe. Maybe epic is too strong, but good card, should watch. And there were some pretty momentous events that took place within the card.
For sure. Let's actually go straight into it. We're going to start not with the main event, but with the co-main event. Alexander Volkanovski defeats Max Holloway by unanimous decision. All three judges scored it 50-45. That means 5 rounds to 0 to Alexander Volkanovski. And Tom, I'm going to ask you the $1 million question. How did you score this fight?
Well, Joe, I picked this one by decision for Volkanovski, and as did you. So in the predictions game, we're even after this fight. I mean, I put it this way, Joe. I watched 3 rounds of this, and I felt I didn't need to score anything further because it was just one-way traffic. Volk was totally dominant and more than worth a 50-45 decision.
Yeah, I mean, that was so impressive that I came away from it thinking not only is Volkanovski the pound-for-pound best fighter in the world, like he is maybe the most complete MMA fighter I might have ever seen. Like that was like the feeling I got from it, because Max Holloway is maybe the best contender you can put up there against a champion, like in any division. Like if you think about number one contender, the best fighter, who's it going to be? Max Holloway is probably the best one available. And not only did he beat Holloway, he absolutely thrashed him, dominated him, to the point where it looked like Max was just... I mean, some people even coming out of it going like, is Max washed up? And it's like, no, he's not washed up. Volkanovski has just actually leveled up again. Like, I think what we saw was Max's ceiling. We found what Max's ceiling is, and Volkanovski has pushed on beyond that and is now trying to find his. Yeah,
Joe. I mean, I can't challenge anything you said there at all. I'm in total agreement. Volkanovski was just so impressive. He totally eviscerated Max. I mean, from the get-go, his kind of presence and his intensity with the walkout when he was talking to the camera saying, "This is for you, baby, back home. Don't let everybody doubt you."
Do you think Volkanovski loves Australia?
There's something about his walkout which makes me think he does love Australia. And yeah, he's a great representative for that country. I mean, that's an athlete you can really get behind because he does seem to kind of embody the kind of working man's ideals. And Joe, he came out there with an intensity that he's had in these last fights, an intensity that he's really found since the second Holloway fight. And really, I was kind of getting chills because the guy was just on his game. He just really... I mean, I don't want to talk down about Max already. I'm trying to avoid that. Yeah. But Volkanovski just eviscerated him. He really made short work of him. He was so accurate. He was hitting hard. He was moving out the way. He saw everything Max was throwing. It was just the complete performance, really.
Yeah, it was actually a slightly different Volkanovski performance as well. I don't know if you remember this. I mean, we talked about it briefly on the last podcast, but we talked about the second Volkanovski-Holloway fight, where Volkanovski's down the first 2 rounds, and he comes out in the third, and he's so aggressive, and not just aggressive and confident, aggressive with the feinting. Like, he's really feinting hard, and he's trying to draw out Max. I don't know about you, but there was no fainting in this fight. Like, he just went out there and absolutely just beat him up. Well, he didn't feel the need to do it. He did, which is incredible.
That was the speed advantage that Volkanovski seemed to have. He made Max Holloway, as you say, the greatest challenger you could really have. A man who's pushed him, the distance in both fights. He made him look like Korean Zombie. A Korean Zombie that I thought should be retired after that fight. But
you're not going to go that far for Max, are you?
I'm not going to go that far for Max because I've got evidence I can point to in Max's last 2 fights where he looked elite. In fact, I just watched a little clip now of Max Holloway screaming at the end of the 5th round, I'm the best boxer in the UFC, as he batters Keita with a straight jab and then ducks out of the way and weaves past 3 of Keita's shots. That was within the last year, I believe, Joe. So you have to give the full credit here to Volkanovski. The only thing that you can really ask is, is he the pound for pound best? You've already laid your case out there that he is.
Yeah, he is.
I mean, he certainly had the most dominant win over the highest level of competition in Max Holloway, but I still feel like Usman's just ahead of him there for me, just because of the number of guys he's beat, and the fact that Usman, the kind of pressure wrestler, has been finding those knockouts.
Yeah, I guess he does have those finishes, but for me, Usman, when he beat Covington the second time, I had him winning, but it wasn't like a clear
3 rounds
domination.
To 2.
Yeah, it was 3 rounds to 2. Whereas this, I mean, Volk absolutely battered him. That right hand in the second round, which split his eyebrow, that gash.
Wow.
And, it was deep cut. And just how he just handled Max, it's really impressive to see a guy do that to the best possible contender in that division, because, as we said, now people are thinking, well, is Max done? Is he washed up? I mean, listen, 10 years in the UFC from the age of 20 to 30, that's going to take a lot out of you. You're not going to be fighting at the age of 37, 38.
Sorry, Joe, let me jump in there. For me, that is not a question I've been asking myself, like, is Max finished? That is not something I've thought. I think that's a little bit unfair and disrespectful on Max. Normally, I'm looking at the failings of the other guy, but I think really all the credit does have to go to Volkanovski. And again, let's just remind the listeners: Calvin Keita and Yair Rodriguez, 2 of the top 5. Max put them away very comfortably in his most recent fights. So I really do think it's the case that Volkanovski's just gone a level ahead. I mean, he looks so fast. And so powerful against Korean Zombie, and he's clearly just gone up a level, and Max hasn't been able to add that level to his game.
His mentality as well. I think it's incredible, his mental strength that Volkanovski has. That he came out of that second Holloway fight where a lot of people scored it for Holloway and people didn't respect him as a champion, and he was just like, right, well, I'm going to prove you wrong, and battered Ortega, battered the Zombie, and he's like, right, well, I've got to do it to Holloway now to really let people know that I'm the champ. And he went out there and he did it, and his grit and determination to absolutely control this fight from second one to the very end is so commendable. This
25 minutes, Joe. 25 minutes of just a flawless display. Max never ever looked like he was coming back into the fight. He never had a moment.
Max had at best, I'd say 3 or 4 combos that kind of got going. That's about it. Max Holloway, by the way, is a fighter who traditionally in his fights, his output goes up, like significantly so. And Volkanovski just cut him off. He said, not this time. And also, if you compare this fight compared to the other 2 fights, the significant strike difference, Volkanovski outstruck him in those previous 2 fights, but it was by about 20 odd strikes. Here, he outstruck him 199 significant strikes to 127. Far and away dominant performance. Outstruck him in every single round. And in the 5th round, Volkanovski had his highest output, 50 significant strikes out of 80. And Holloway had his lowest of 19 of 54. That's normally when Holloway kicks up and gets going. And Volkanovski smashed him. This might be the one of the best championship performances I have ever seen. I have absolutely ever seen. This is on. Think about like. I don't know what other championship performances are there like this?
Jones versus Cormier too.
Well, do you don't think Cormier was in that second fight?
Yeah.
That fight is what. By the way, we've touched on it occasionally. Jones Cormier 2 might be one of the peaks of MMA, of like how they're adjusting to each other and the skills that they're using on each other. And of course, Jones finished Cormier and it's an incredible game plan that he had set up. But there's just something about this Volkanovski one where he just... I'm just absolutely blown away by it. I think it's a masterpiece. I'm talking like, he wasn't a champion, but Cody Garbrandt versus Dominic Cruz. You know, how everyone is so effusive about that performance, even now, despite the drop. It's like, well, he had that night against Dominic Cruz. Volkanovski, no matter what happens in his career, he'll always have this night against Holloway.
Well, I can't imagine that his career takes the same turn as Cody Garbrandt, Joe, because right now I'm thinking just how high can this man go? He said himself he wants to go up to lightweight. There's one small problem with that, Joe. Volkanovski may have broken his hand there in the second round. I don't know if you've seen that.
Insane.
See, if he's fighting with that kind of injury, he gave no hint of that. Well, we've run out of superlatives.
The mentality of him. That's the thing I get.
Impregnable. His mind. Yeah. So.
But now let's talk about this. Volkanovski has talked about going up to lightweight. You have previously said that you want Dariush versus Makhachev next. Two wrestlers to fight each other in the same way that we get strikers facing each other and they cancel each other out in the rankings and whatever. These two wrestlers should fight each other, see who can go into a title shot. Does that then mean to you that you have Oliveira versus Volkanovski?
Joe, it's clear. The goal is open, and I want to send Volkanovski through on goal. I'm totally with him in saying that he's earned the right to call his shots. I do not think he'd be jumping the queue at lightweight at all. I cannot imagine who you match him up with featherweight. Everybody needs a performance, Joe. Everybody needs a performance to get in there with Volkanovski. Arnold needs a signature win.
Josh Emmett.
Really,
to me,
Josh Emmett versus Keita.
Right. If the UFC have gone down the road of setting Oliveira versus Makhachev for October in Abu Dhabi, then that means Volkanovski's not getting that lightweight title shot this year. So then, what do? He obviously wants to fight again this year, maybe fucking twice if he wants to. I mean, Christ, he could go September, December, most likely. So you could then do Emmett maybe in September. And you could come back in December. I don't know, like maybe.
I mean,
okay. out of the featherweight fighters, by the way, Emmett is the one I would go for if you're going to set one up now.
Well, Joe, it's not a long list. I mean, it's Emmett or Allen.
Yeah, I would say probably Emmett. I think the Keita win is a more significant win than the Hooker win.
Yeah. But let's remember how we.
But listen, I can see the erection deflating. Like you don't.
I mean, come on. And I don't think Volkanovski wants that fight. I don't think he has anything to prove there. Now, Josh Emmett, of course, he's ready for that fight right now. Can't come soon enough. I guess we'll just see how it does line up with the timings, with Volkanovski's injuries. But I think he's earned the right to pick his shot. If that means Emmett has to wait, if that means Allen gets a chance to put a signature win in there and also enter the conversation at featherweight, that's all good. Before we move on to the next fight, Joe, any comments on Holloway? I mean, he was also talking about maybe going up.
Do you know the fight that came to mind for me?
Well, we've seen him fight Poirier, so... Is it
Holloway
Gaethje?
Versus Gaethje? Yeah, that's it. Holloway versus Gaethje. I think Max now, realistically, could go into high level celebrity fighter if he wanted to, of just pick and choosing.
Joe, the disrespect now.
No.
I can't listen to this.
What
Joe.
I mean is that basically he fights the top contenders at either lightweight or featherweight.
So Nick Diaz's last fight on the contract against Max Holloway at lightweight.
Oh, damn. You've actually... Oh, that's piqued a bit of interest for me, actually.
It would be fun.
Listen, for Holloway next, give me a fun fight.
Yeah. Well, I mean, this is so dismissive, though.
No, it's not.
Let's make a fight at lightweight, but none of the killers coming through. Also, not Tony Ferguson or Dan Hooker. Well, yeah, I would like that fight, Joe. I would like that fight. That sounds fun to me.
Trash talk would be good. Yeah, that sounds like a fun January pay-per-view. no title on the line, Holloway McGregor to there's the narrative built in, like with the Poirier one for McGregor and all that. It kind of makes perfect sense.
Also,
and then when he loses, you can do the rematch where they're 1-1 going into the trilogy fight in June.
I mean, if Conor could beat Holloway again, that would put that would be a more credible win than fighting, say, Nate Diaz, or indeed Nick Diaz. All right, I think we signed off on that fight, Joe. Let's move on to the main event.
Yeah, we've gone about this in a slightly circuitous way, which might seem a bit weird to the listeners at first, but I think when we actually start talking about this main event, might become a bit clearer to you why we've done this. Israel Adesanya defeats Jared Cannonier on the judges' scorecards. Two of them was 49-46 and a 150-45. Tom, which way did you fall in the scoring?
I had it
this main event.
49-46, Joe. I'm just flicking over to my notes. Now, it was round 3 I gave to Cannonier.
Yep. Round 3, that was the template for how he was supposed to win a round, which was grimy. Exactly. We're now at the stage where guys have figured out how not to get finished by Adesanya, but they have not figured out how to beat him. Like that's what we're at now, and it's a frustrating watch, but it's a natural thing to have happened.
Yeah, I mean, I was just listening now to Yoel Romero talking about his fight with Izzy and talking about the lack of damage he took, talking about how he's kind of almost anti-MMA because he has that style where he can pick people off at distance without exposing himself to huge risk, and it's up to the other guys to go out there and find a blueprint to beat him. However, I've got to say it is a little bit sad if that blueprint is kind of holding him up against the cage and landing light body shots and occasionally going up top, as Cannonier did to win the round he did win. I've got to ask Joe. I mean, could Cannonier have won this fight?
Maybe. He invested in the leg kicks early on, and then he didn't. He stopped doing it. I guess because the leg kicks are such a centerpiece of Adesanya's attack that it will sort of neutralize yours. And then he was actually throwing to the body. I was just like, oh, thank God someone's actually throwing to the body. Like, the head isn't always going to be there, but the body most likely will be. And it's like, thankfully someone started throwing to the body. But as Izzy said, he denied the second wave of attack, which means that obviously it makes for a frustrating performance or frustrating viewing for the fans, who, by the way, were streaming out after the third round.
Well, just for the listeners there, what is he saying is that normally he say would land a jab or a leg kick, which would then he could follow up with more of a combo. It might open up space for a hook or produce a reaction from Cannonier that would leave an opening for Izzy. But he was very complimentary of Cannonier's preparation and indeed his coaching, in that Izzy really was limited to that jab, and there was not much more. That was what won the fight for Izzy. I couldn't pick out anything else that I thought was...
I thought it was interesting how he had his lead hand all the way out. Like, it was this sort of kind of like a variation of that sort of mummy guard thing that Cormier does, of like the hand fighting and all that. Yeah, exactly. Which, again, coming from a much taller fighter then, is even harder to get to the body. It's not like with Cormier where, okay, you got this shorter guy fighting your hands, whatever, you can go to the body, but you then leave yourself to be taken down by a wrestler. Here with Adesanya, it's just like, how are you going to get inside that? And it was in thinking about him now as the champion and how people have started to figure out that you can't go charging in. Like, the classic one that we think of is Brunson, like running in like a bull to a red rag and just absolutely losing it, and like Adesanya picking him off. Whittaker blitzing. I honestly think the Brunson one is worse because those takedowns were so telegraphed. They're just of course he was going to knee him in the head.
Absolutely. So, I mean, but Brunson has form for that. I don't know.
Do you remember the Whittaker one, which I think was even funnier?
I mean, he's got a highlight reel of his own now in charging in. I've got to say, Joe, it's a bit of a shame that Brunson himself fell to Cannonier last time out, because I don't know. I was getting a bit excited.
Do you think he would have taken the fight a bit more to Adesanya?
Yeah, I think Brunson was showing signs of evolution up until that very disappointing showing against Cannonier, and I think it would have been a good test for Addy. But again, in this fight, he did show just awesome defense across all facets of the sport.
It's becoming like this Floyd Mayweather thing of just like, well, I'm not getting totally humiliated by him, but I've got no way of like drawing anything out of him, so that all he has to do is actually jab me and move away and go from there. And tying this into the other middleweight fight on the main card, I was actually thinking about Jones versus Gustafsson 1, when that was kind of the first time we saw John Jones in trouble as a champion. And something that people kind of forget about that was that that was the first time Jones fought someone who was the same height as him, who had the same sort of physical dimensions as him. And when was the last time Izzy fought anyone that was the same dimension as him? Like, it's been a while, and now it seems like we got that contender.
Yeah, Joe.
Alex Pereira.
Right.
By the way, we both picked Izzy by decision going into this fight. For Pereira versus Strickland, I picked Pereira by decision, and you picked Sean Strickland by decision, which is now looking like an incredibly foolish pick. I think we can agree. In fact, not
Joe,
picking Pereira knockout was a ridiculous decision.
Well, I mean, I've got to say, I actually had Adesanya there by KO as well. So, bad night for me there. I guess I bought into the hype. I won't make that mistake again, Adesanya.
Yeah.
You know, like, I know you've been a huge fan, Joe, but I think what people are saying is true.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, like, I'm not excited for Izzy's next fight.
You're not excited for him versus Pereira? Sorry.
I kind of consider that a fight outside the norm, in that, you know, Alex Pereira has just bypassed all the people who can beat him.
Yeah,
so
which, by the way, I'm fine with. Like, why do we need to see him face a wrestler? Like, what are we going to learn from that? We need to see these two fight.
Absolutely.
This is the time to do it.
Hey,
like,
Joe,
no messing. Let's get this going.
I mean, let's talk about Pereira Strickland. That was the fight that preceded Volkanovski and Holloway. Now, I knew I was in trouble here, Joe, when I watched Sean Strickland walk out, because that man looked completely racked with nerves. He really,
do you reckon?
Yeah, really. I was sat watching it with my partner here, and we were both like, "Uh-oh, the lights are shining a bit too bright." And,
no!
And
needs to go back to the Apex for some fight nights. Yeah,
I mean, I know you're a huge Sean Strickland fan now as well, and I identify with him on a few levels. But Strickland here, the bright lights, I think, got to him. And also the threat that he was about to face in Pereira. Not that you would see in Sean Strickland's fight style that he had acknowledged that threat, because this was an appalling showing, and not what I envisioned when I picked him to win by decision.
Is this the worst game plan we've seen from a fighter in a long time? Like, this is... I mean, this is insane.
So, just to quote Sean Strickland, mocking the kickboxing of Pereira, saying all he's got is a left hook and some knees. Well, Sean, look, you cannot come out on a centre line with a singular jab.
Which he didn't even throw that much.
I mean, Joe, it was really poor, but the knockout itself was definitely one of the biggest moments on the card. Really beautiful stuff in its simplicity, but also in its accuracy. So Pereira just kind of stepping off the line a little bit, landing that hook, wobbling Strickland. And then on the way down, don't know if you caught this, he landed not one, but two strikes as Strickland was falling to the mat.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, so accurate,
it was incredible.
so clinical.
It was amazing also how he was just turning Strickland. Like, they were basically turning the same way, and he was just throwing this jab to the body to get, like, Strickland to react to that. And then just, obviously... threw that so many times that when he twitches that left arm, Strickland thinks he's going to the body again and just whips that hook round to send him flying to the ground. And it was like, it was a real announcement knockout. It was like, this guy is legit. This guy has got something that can give Izzy problems. And I genuinely do think he can give Izzy problems. Despite Izzy, he used that line about 4 or 5 times in the lead up. I had him on skates like Elsa, or so. It was so cringe, wasn't it? No reaction every time, and he kept going to it. It's like, Jesus, bro, listen, get a bit of Chell Sun and, promo class in there, and move on when you have a bad line.
Yeah. I mean, absolutely. But you can tell that Pereira's a bit of a boogeyman. I do think he's occupying some space in Izzy's head. I really do. I could see that sensitivity in the press conference when Strickland was really poking at that. It's a really exciting fight. Now, thank God, because there isn't another fight I wanna see there at middleweight for the champ.
Whoa. Why are you disrespecting Dricus du Plessis? Like, come on, man, you don't want to.
Well,
we're going
to get there, but yes. Now, talking about stepping off the line and landing a hook, Brad Tavares could take note of that when we do get to du Plessis.
But
because
anyway, can we just go back to this Strickland thing? What did he think was going to happen of him slowly walking forward with his hands at his nipples, not throwing jabs, not doing anything, he didn't even feint for a takedown? You think he was like, if you're going to brawl with this guy who's a kickboxer, at least have a bit of output there. Throw some leg kicks or something.
Joe, I think he fooled himself, He certainly fooled me. You see that in my prediction. I think he really fooled himself. Like, yeah, I can hang it with there. My kind of pressure style with the singular jab has been enough to overwhelm many others in the middleweight division. And I've seen strikers, he's famous for sparring a lot in training. He probably thinks he has those reactions. Yeah. But he was shown up in such a bad way. I mean, the other comical thing here that we didn't mention is that when Pereira lands that hook, Strickland is kind of, he's got his guard set, he's got both eyes fixed on Pereira, and he just does not see it coming. He just does not see it coming. He's already kind of, his eyes just falling off the center line as the hook lands, and he falls backwards. It was appalling.
He retreated in a straight line the whole time. It's like he was made to look like an absolute jabron, and
he was. Joe, it speaks to the levels of striking that are out there in combat sports, and the very fact that people like myself were buying into Strickland. It just shows that there is a long way for some of these fighters to go.
You do forget that Pereira and Adesanya are probably the two most experienced fighters on this card. Like, in terms of rounds. Like, they are probably unmatched. Like, they've had so many kickboxing fights that have gone the distance as well, and it's like you can't replicate that. You can't replicate unless you got a super specific strategy that you're going to go in there and try and execute and then have a layered response to it, where it's just okay, once he's figured this out, I'm going to do this, and you're able to sort of blend all these styles in there. But we've seen it in a couple of Izzy's recent fights. You have to make it grimy against him. I don't think Pereira is going to do that, because physically they match up the same, and they've got, again, both got an incredible amount of experience in kickboxing. That it's the only fight to make at middleweight, and it should be done before the end of the year. Yeah,
totally on board with it, and I really, I can't wait to watch it. I think it's something that Izzy will have some sleepless nights over. Honestly, Joe, I think he really wants to wipe that stain away. I think he'll relish the opportunity to fight again in MMA with Pereira. But I really think that's a sensitive spot, those losses, and I think he'll be nervous fighting Pereira again.
Do you reckon?
Yeah, I don't have any doubt about it, actually, Joe.
Okay, fair enough.
But right. I mean, he's a true competitor. Of course, he will want the fight. It's a chance to correct that, right that wrong. But the fight works on many levels. Just a quick note now, Joe, about the rankings here at middleweight. Okay. So Pereira, previously unranked, he's come in, he's taken Strickland's spot. He's up to number 6 now.
Where's Strickland?
Strickland's dropped down to 7. He's gone 3 places down in the rankings. That also means that the likes of Paulo Costa, Brunson, and Vittoria have all been elevated.
I mean, these rankings are ridiculous. They could literally just say, put Pereira at number 2, which, I don't know, man. If you're unranked and you beat the number 4 guy in the world, you should be in the top 5 at least. Even if Strickland's ranking is a bit blown up.
Well, we've both had a lot to say a few times here on the rankings, and I think rightly so. But there were a few other changes here. There were a couple of fighters there on the prelims at middleweight: Andre Muniz and Brad Tavares. Duplessis and Tavares, and of course Uriah Hall. I'm sure we'll get to those fights in a moment, but Muniz and Duplessis emerged as winners. They've both gone up in the rankings. Duplessis newly ranked at 14, and Muniz now up to 10. Some momentum happening at middleweight, a little bit of turnover, which is good to see.
Damn. Okay, cool. Right, let's talk about the rest of this main card here. Two fights that were... Well, one was surprisingly not that bad, and one was interesting for its ending, and I guess the preceding round or so that it did last. What do you want to go with? Do you want to go with Munhoz O'Malley, or do you want to talk about Lawler Barberena? Do you want to get that out of the way?
Yeah, I think. Well, get that out of the way. Lawler Barberena. I think that's we were a little bit disparaging before the fight, but it was fun, Joe.
It was a fun fight.
It was fun.
A fun fight. We both picked Barberena by decision, but Barberena wins by knockout, standing TKO of Robbie Lawler. It was the right finish, wasn't it? It was. He was done. He was cooked, wasn't he?
I have to say that, Joe. But the thing is, before that, Lawler, I thought looked pretty good, actually.
Yeah. He was riding out Barberena's frequency, striking and all.
Pretty remarkable frequency. Yeah, Lawler, he was showing the same style again. He showed against Nick Diaz, I guess, against these kind of volume heavy but power light strikers. He's got this kind of bob and weave, Anderson Silva with the hands going. That's not something we used to see from Lawler quite so much. And I think when his coaches got to him in the end of the first round and said, like, look, you don't need to stand there and take those shots, land yours and then get out the way. I really thought that Lawler was kind of pulling ahead for me, actually, in the second round.
I had him winning the first, and I thought he was going ahead in the second. It was something that I noticed that I kind of figured out with like the volume striking thing, is that I was kind of getting a bit frustrated with Barberena of like, he's landing these shots, but like none of them have any like zip on them. He's throwing everything at like 40-50%, where he's just like kind of like trying to frustrate more than anything. And I realised that with volume strikers, you've got to mix something else in there, whether it's the Colby Covington takedowns, or whether it's like that one shot in 7 or 8 that's like really got a bit of zip on it, got a real bit of power in there to sort of throw people off, so that they can never really fully set. Whereas Lawler was just kind of like, all right, he's throwing. Okay, I'll wait. All right, now I'm going to unload. Because it's like, all right, it was basically you go, I go. And obviously I favoured Lawler's power shots from that first round, where he was really, landing heavy on Barberena. But
I thought that was an interesting round for the judges. Of course, there's been a lot of controversy, as ever, around judging. And I was looking forward to hearing what you had to say there. Because, of course, your man Barberena, he did outland Lawler significantly, but Lawler did have more accurate and heavier shots. He did more damage. Yeah. So I also picked Lawler, but I was interested to see whether you would feel the same.
Yeah, for sure. What do we want next for these guys? I mean, Lawler should probably retire, but or go to Bellator.
I mean,
what do you think? Was there an old man fight out there for him?
Nate. I mean, we've just booked Nate, maybe, but he's obviously got the history now with Nick.
Nothing there really, is there?
No, Joe, there's not. But like, whatever he wants to do, he's not in the Cowboy Cerrone zone where it's like he just had to go, and obviously that did happen on this card. We'll get to that in a minute, but I can't give you a matchup that I want to see, but I have to say, in the end, with this fight, I wasn't disgusted that it was in there on the main card. It was all right. It was a break from the intensity,
Yeah. It was a nice cool-off fight where I remember watching it. I was just going like, this is pretty good. I'm enjoying this. This is all right. And by the way, Rogan did exactly what I said. Lawler's a warrior. The wars with McDonald and Condit and all these. I was just like, shut the fuck up. By the way, I wrote this down when they were looking at the next pay-per-view card, which is headlined by Pena versus Nunes 2. Can't wait for that. Where he said, we got Anthony Smith versus Ankalov as well. He literally couldn't read the names in front of him. So
now, Joe, hold on. Rogan did say one thing that
Hold
I
on, I'm
enjoyed.
mispronouncing, brother. What's up?
Yeah, well, Rogan did have one moment which I particularly enjoyed here when he referred to Volkanovski as a pit bull on amphetamines.
Yeah.
That was fun.
That was an odd one, wasn't it? And then also him going like, underrated thing about Max Holloway, his chin. It was just like, what are you on about? His chin is like legendary.
Yeah.
Anyway, opening this main card. Oh, Barbarena. What do we just mid card brawl? Give us like a mid card.
Well,
Baeza?
Back down to the prelims. Wow. Yeah, I mean Baeza's obviously on a bit of a skid now, so yeah, all right.
Actually, I think Baeza retired, didn't he? So I think.
Oh no!
Just, oh my god! It's Tom. It looks like I just said I got to put your dog down. Like, that was.
I think that's true.
Yeah, I think he retired. He was just, I've had enough. And it's like, fair enough, mate. Fair enough. Right. Let's talk about this fight. This Munhoz versus O'Malley ends in a no contest after O'Malley poked Munhoz in the eye, scratching his cornea, and Munhoz had to basically doctor stoppage end of the fight.
That was in the second round, Joe. But
that was in the second round.
First round, I had Munhoz winning it.
I had Munhoz winning it as well.
Mm-hmm.
Pedro Munhoz followed a game plan. Could you believe it? Like, it was pretty incredible. Switch stance with O'Malley through consistent leg kicks. I mean, 0 punches coming from Munhoz, but it was a game plan to frustrate O'Malley, and I'm guessing so that O'Malley would have to sort of like start lunging in to try and get anything done, and then counter him. Fair play, Pedro Munhoz. He was winning that fight.
He was winning the first round, but I was leaning towards O'Malley in the second before the stoppage. I think O'Malley was kind of coming on a little bit heavier, realising that he did have the licence to time those leg kicks. He was checking quite a few as well, I have to say, for O'Malley. Yeah. And then, of course, he just got the reach on Munhoz. That was very evident in the second. The volume was coming. I think he was starting to figure Munhoz out. Yeah. Now, the stoppage, a lot of people, they were complaining about it. They thought Munhoz was kind of play acting. Now, it did look a little bit soft, but obviously Munhoz has that record. You know, I was talking about his toughness, his durability. So, I mean, come on.
He's fought everyone at bantamweight.
Well,
he fought fucking Aldo,
Joe,
Dominic
he's got the
Cruz.
most appearances, actually, at bantamweight in the UFC.
So, get fucked with this whole he's scared of Sean O'Malley thing. When, by the way, O'Malley had landed nothing really on him that was too significant. Yeah, O'Malley had a couple long right hands that he'd landed, but Munhoz didn't seem too bothered by that. And then we see the eye thing, and everyone's like complaining about it and whatnot. First off, I've always said this about any sport: slow motion never makes anything look good. Like if you saw that, if that eye poke, was shown in real time, like you'd see the speed of which it happens. Getting stuff in your eye really hurts, as I've told you in a recent story about myself. Were there 8 other men involved? Not for me to say, but that's that's not true, Kirsten, if you're listening. But anyway, obviously getting a finger to the eye doesn't feel good. And then Munhoz afterwards, did you see the picture of him with Glover Teixeira?
No, I haven't seen that.
Bro, his eye was closed up and was like bruised heavily. Like apparently they had to inject. They had to numb the area around his eye so they could open it up and look into it, because it's just like he couldn't open his eye. And like you're telling me that this guy's like faking it to get out of a fight with O'Malley, which is like cruising to a rather boring decision.
Yeah, absolutely. No respect, but you know, like I guess a lot of fans maybe tuning in to see O'Malley, they didn't know much about Munhoz's record, and you know, it looked like it didn't look like that significant, did it, in the moment? So we know it was now. The only question is, do they make this fight again?
No.
No.
They're not. Right, after that first round, they're just going to move on.
Let's move on. Yeah.
Let's going to move on. Well, I mean, O'Malley, what does he move on to?
Well, I heard mentions of that. Jan has said that if O'Malley's serious about wanting that fight, then Jan will give it to him. If I'm picking a match for O'Malley, if I'm in his coaching team, I'm saying, like, yeah, easy there, son. You know, you're going to have to fight this guy probably for the belt if you want to get that at some stage. So,
for a 5-round main event. You know, you're gonna have to do a fight night main event against this guy. I
mean, that's just it. I just don't see the need for him to go and take a fight like that. Like, his stock has not really been diminished by this fight. I think he's obviously been shown there. Not that he's got a vulnerability in the game plan that Munhoz showed him, but he's not the finished article, is he?
No, for sure. But I've also got to suggest something here is that if he wants to go up to the championship level, I think he's going to have to do it quite quickly now, because there's some guys at bantamweight where I'm like, like Marab and, Nurmagomedov, where it's like, I don't know if I'd like his chances against those guys, and it's like,
you're right in that, Joe. I mean,
so
the thing is, the whole division is just a killer's row, and there's no let up in that. There's just more blood coming through,
and everyone's matched up apart from Jan. If I'm O'Malley, I would take the Jan shot to then get into a title shot. Because otherwise, I'm sorry, man. Like, you want to try and take on Merab Dvalishvili when he's the champ?
No, I'm looking at the Vera fight. I think that's a rematch that he had won. Now Vera's got that ranking at 5. I think it's
Vera's booked against Cruz.
Sure. So if I'm O'Malley, I'm waiting for the winner of that fight. I think those are good matchups for him. They're both moving forwards in the sport, and I just. Sorry, Sean. For the listeners out there excited about the prediction game, if you see Petr Yan written on a piece of paper versus whoever the fuck you want, I'm picking Petr Yan. I'm picking Petr Yan, Joe. The guy's still the elite standard in the division. So
yeah, to me he's still the number one in that division. Like, I know Aljamain won that.
He definitely won the fight. He did.
Who, Aljamain or...
Yeah, sorry, Aljamain. He did win the fight, but that doesn't diminish Petr Yan.
Yeah, but how did he win those rounds compared to how did Yan win his rounds? It's like, I mean, it's night and day, isn't it? Like, Sterling held his back and got in some pitter-patter punches, whereas Yan was denying takedowns, tripping him, kicking the fuck out of him and just beating him up on the feet. So,
Joe, all I'm saying is that instead of Petr Yan, like Dillashaw, Sanhagen, Rob Font, all of these are better
Font's
matchups.
Font's a good shout.
All much better matchups for Sean O'Malley. Like, don't do it to yourself, bro. Just don't. Just don't. You're a young man. You've got your whole life ahead of you. Don't fight Petr Yan.
No.
Or, Joe, there was one small comedian making an appearance here. Henry Cejudo, former champ at bantamweight, he made a very strange and comedic appearance. Where he called out Sean O'Malley. He said he was ready, pick a date to bend the knee. How'd you feel about that matchup?
Man, that is one hell of a matchup. Physically, that's insane.
Yeah.
That's an insane... I mean, he's back in the USADA testing pool. I think he's got another 3 months to go before he can officially have a fight booked.
Joe, I'm here for it. Like Henry Cejudo, I'm here for it. It's quirky.
I loved when he, in that little thing. By the way, I think we can both agree the funniest part of that video is when the camera guy pans to Figueiredo, just stood there looking utterly bemused at what's going on.
Yeah, I think you're going to cut this in here for the listeners, probably.
I'm going to cut it in right now.
The interaction this week with Henry Cejudo and Aljamain Sterling, and what did you make of that?
I didn't see that.
You want a matchup if he's right here? I'd love a tune-up. What do you say, Precious?
Serious?
What do you say?
You're good to go now,
Yeah,
huh?
I'm good to go.
Say it.
When would you want to bend the knee at what time? Because I think you absolutely suck.
What do you weigh?
Go ahead, carry on with the interview. Go ahead, carry on.
Okay, it's cringy. No one takes that dude serious.
Also, O'Malley seemed really caught off guard, didn't he?
Joe,
Like,
I think we all were. Like, what is it? He's a funny little man, Cejudo. He's a funny little man. Bring it on. Get him back in
to be back. Yeah, I can't wait. Get that coach.
You absolutely suck.
He did the Chael Sonnen. You absolutely suck. And I'm like, oh yeah, Henry, you know your onions. You know how to pop the boys. Because I think you absolutely suck. Oh, so good. And then like O'Malley's just kind of like, yeah, all right, just bemused.
Is this for real? And we still don't know if that was for real. I mean,
right. It was a real out of body experience watching that clip, I must say.
So Joe, just to round that one off. I mean, not that we count that in our scoring, but I had picked O'Malley there to win that fight by decision. That leaves you overall as the defending champ. You've done it again.
Yeah, champ again. How many points did I get? It wasn't a lot. It was 3, 4, 5 points. That's all right. 5 points is enough. That's enough.
I can't. I have nothing to say, Joe.
Yeah, 5 points. It was a workman-like 5 points, but I'll take the 5 points regardless. But yeah, one hell of a card. Certainly a memorable one. Maybe not in the way that everyone initially expected.
Well, I know we're itching, of course, to move on to the next fight night that's ahead of us. We're always forward-looking here on Hold On, I'm Talking Brother, but a quick reference to the prelims. We already mentioned Munhoz and
prelim.
Duplessis. Yeah, absolutely. Munhoz, Duplessis, and Jalen Turner all coming out in impressive fashion. Which of those 3 fights was your favourite?
Oh, it's Duplessis Tavares. I mean, Duplessis, by the way, he did this in his last fight, or was it the fight before, where he looks kind of really nervous, like the first round, and he's just like really anxiously like swinging and just like looking kind of a bit scared. And then he just turns into like Diego Sanchez circa 2005 against Clay Guida and just runs forward with like 5-6 shots in a row. And if you don't, literally all you have to do is go backwards and angle off. But Tavares didn't do that, didn't throw any hooks in there to counter him. Tavares could have won that fight, but he didn't.
Joe, I'm all for it. That was a lot of fun. Duplessis, he came out full power, emptied the tank, tried this suplex, throwing Tavares over the top of him in the first round. Really ill-advised. Said that he slipped, but I think that was never an advisable technique against Tavares there. And Tavares lands up on top, ends up winning the first round for me. Duplessis, unfazed, just comes out again, full clip, full testosterone, spills his load all over the octagon and absolutely freight trains Tavares. I mean, he was landing some massive shots, spinning back fist, 1-2 down the middle, and all the time just charging like a, Brunson versus Adesanya style, but instead of reaching for a knee, he was unloading massive shots. I loved it, Joe.
This guy's great, isn't he? He's great to watch. I mean, in a way, I kind of wish we still had peak Yoel Romero in this division, because that would be the fight that I would want to make. But we don't have that. But how about Paulo Costa versus Dricus Duplessis?
Joe, there's plenty of juice still left, even with Yoel Romero gone. Yeah, Paulo Costa, that sounds great. I can think of some other matchups. I'd like Gastelum, let him freight train through there. Although Gastelum, he might have the wherewithal to step off the line, as you were saying, because
he's a better striker than Tavares for sure.
Well, I don't want to be too down on Tavares. He is the test. Good. He's the test for the rankings, and Duplessis just empty the tank. He kept that pace up. I mean, it was so comical when he would kind of jump and run in like wind up doll and then blitz forward. Incredible. So onwards and upwards. Darren Till, that would be fun. Kelvin Gastelum. Even now, maybe Sean Strickland. Maybe Strickland can't just walk backwards throwing jabs when you got that tank charging you down.
Duplessis versus Sean Strickland is the fight to make. That is 100% the fight to make. Should we talk about Ian Gary versus Gabe Green? What do we think of Ian Gary?
I think he's better than Gabe Green, Joe. So good for him.
He's very slick. Quick hands. I'll give him that.
Quick hands.
He's young though.
Nice 1-2. Very nice 1-2. Good again. A man who can step off the centre line and land those shots. Yeah,
really good at moving off the cage as well.
Gabe Green, though, he's not the one, Joe. He's not the wrong. And what we did see in this fight, even though Gabe Green is not quite there, is that Gary's got some work to do on the mat.
Yeah.
He's got some serious work to do.
Oh yeah.
There were a couple of times there where Gary was in top position. I think he even had full mount at one stage. I turned around, took a sip of the beverage of the evening, and then, which I can't remember what it was, but took a sip, and next thing I know, Gabe Green's got his back. What's going on here? So work to do there before he moves further up, but he did enough in this fight.
Yeah, listen, he's 24 years old. There's no need to rush this guy up the rankings. You know what I mean? There's no need to give him. Look, I don't think guys need to have that Conor McGregor sort of rise now, unless they are a Conor McGregor sort. Like, people are talking about, Sean O'Malley is this sort of like star thing. Sean O'Malley in the UFC, at the point that Conor McGregor is in, they're at the same point now as when McGregor beat Chad Mendes. Like, in terms of his tenure in the UFC. Yeah, but they're not the same guys.
No, but bro, the sport is not the same sport. It's really evolved. And that, I mean, look at that bantamweight matchup.
Yeah.
I mean,
it's rough, man.
It's really rough. So even though definitely O'Malley's had those special moments like Conor, he's just got to face higher competition.
If we're going to give Gary a test, though, are we thinking like a Jeff Neal? Are we thinking a Ponzinibbio?
Oh, Joe, I'm recoiling. He's going to be a father, Joe.
Do you want to see him against Hands of Steel, Jeff Neal?
Later, yeah. Later I do.
Man.
But I don't think he's... sorry, Joe. He's not
Sorry, man.
going into the rankings yet. Come on.
Fair enough.
Come, Joe.
Joe,
you saw those position changes I referred to earlier. Maybe you missed it because they were so fast. He went from being...
I do remember.
Outrageous.
Yeah, fair enough. Shall we talk about Munhoz, Uriah Hall just quickly? Munhoz just absolutely dogged him, didn't he? It was not much of a fight. Uriah Hall, get the fuck out of my face. I never want to see you again.
Well, Hall's been on Twitter. He shrugged it off. He doesn't consider that a legitimate loss.
Well, I'm afraid it was.
Because he used jiu-jitsu
and wrestling.
In
By the way,
fight.
great single leg from Munhoz.
Hey,
I like that.
Muniz was very impressive.
Muniz
was it would have been nice to see him get a finish there. He wasn't quite there, but he was totally dominated this fight. And thank God, we do need a little bit more of an injection at middleweight. And Muniz could be that guy. There's some questions there. Nice to see a jiu-jitsu specialist back at middleweight.
Yeah, there were also 2 women fights on these prelims. We also had Jim Miller versus Donald Cerrone in the prelims of the old geezers get another go around. By the way, I'm not trying to be too disrespectful of the women's fights, but who gives a fuck? Like, Macy Barber beats Jessica Eye by decision. Eye retires. Yeah, okay, fine. But let's talk about Miller versus Cerrone. I think we both had Jim Miller winning the first round, but really nice guillotine to finish there. And also, a nice bit of sportsmanship from Miller there to let Cerrone talk first and allow him to retire there in the cage.
I think that should be the norm. I really do think that should be the norm. Like, especially if you're Jessica Eye and you're retiring, maybe you don't get to go first. But if you're
Donald Cerrone,
or one of these veterans of the sport, true veterans who've been tested at the highest levels. It was a nice
Robbie
moment.
Lawler, that sort of...
100%. Oh my God, give Lawler the mic if he does want to hang him up. Let the man speak. Let the poetry flow from his soul. So that was a nice moment. I mean, Cerrone's
Jim Miller, though, I've got to say, he's on a bit of a run.
Hey, Joe, this face-off here was for the most wins ever in the UFC, and Miller's time has not come yet, even though he's 40 fights deep in his UFC career.
Unreal. He says he wants to fight at UFC 300, which will be in 2 years' time. And Dana has said if he's still on the roster and still fighting, then he'll get that fight at UFC 300. And you know what? Hey man, we all need goals. Fair play to Jim Miller. Just keep feeding him guys who are there for their first fight in the UFC who lost on the Contender Series to get fed to Miller. By the way, I don't know if I've ever mentioned this. I have UFC 3 on my PlayStation 4, and I created a lightweight fighter for my creator fighter, going through the rankings. And the champion that I eventually got to face and lose to was lightweight champion Jim Miller, who on that career run beat Nurmagomedov by knockout. So
alternative timelines.
What a world that would have been.
Hey, it's not over yet for Jim Miller.
Very quickly, last on the prelims, Jalen Turner finishes Brad Riddell. Surprising result, got to say. Riddell didn't look like never got going.
Joe, he didn't have time. He didn't have time. He ate a huge shot. He was trying to figure out what was going on, and the next thing he was trapped in a guillotine. It was smooth, very smooth for Jalen Turner. That's the way to get some hype. To continue with the hype that you've already racked up. Let's go. I'm on choo.
What are we thinking here? Keep him away from Kuta Taladze or Ismagulov.
Well, I was about to say, Joe, he's just entered the rankings at 14 to be joined with one other at 15, Damir Ismagulov. He's made it. He's finally made it. Now they've just got to get past Dan Hooker. That's the gateway to the top 13 for those guys.
Those two are desperate to fight Dan Hooker, aren't they? They're just like, please, just give me Hooker.
Look, Joe. Let's good for Turner. Setback for Riddell, but I'm not going to judge him too harshly. These things happen. I think he will be back in the rankings. Brad Riddell, good fighter, good fundamentals.
Yeah, for sure.
But it lines us up perfectly for the next fight night, actually, Joe.
Yes,
the one that's ahead of us. Talking about lightweights entering the rankings, and we've been frustrated about our Central Asian brothers out there on the same same side of the Cold War as we've been on this pod. We have got Rafael dos Anjos, a mainstay of the lightweight division, a guy who's currently ranked 7th, and he will be fighting Rafael Fiziev, ranked 10. Finally, some new blood coming through.
Finally. This is that fight, kind of like Sarukian and Gamrot, where if Fiziev wins, you'll then go up into that position, and those guys in the top 5, if you lose your next fight, you've got one of these two guys waiting for you, and it ain't going to end well for you.
But will he win, though, Joe? There's a big test for him.
Fiziev's going to win this fight.
Wow.
Fiziev's going to win this fight. I love RDA. I think he's had the hardest run of any fighter in the UFC. I think you can agree with that as well. I'm not going to go through his run of everyone he's fought and lost, but off the top of the head, you're talking about guys like, Nurmagomedov, Anthony Pettis, Eddie Alvarez, Kamaru Usman, Colby Covington. Who else has he fought? Who has he beat?
Chiesa.
Nate Diaz.
Beat Kevin Lee when that meant something. Fought Leon
Neil
Edwards.
Magny.
I mean, he's really been in there with everyone, Joe. Covington and Usman.
He's never ducked a fight, this guy. And he is, a great fighter, but he's 37 years old. And the wheels fall off at a certain stage. And let's be honest here, we want Fiziev to win this fight as well.
I think you'll find Dos Anjos has, got a bit of that Brazilian juice that they...
yeah.
And I think that might help him maintain. I think it's a big test for Fiziev myself. I'm not quite so confident as you that he'll win. I hope he does, because I want to see these new guys break out and go forwards. But I think Dos Anjos is going to test him in the grappling department, and I think you might find some chinks in Fiziev's armour there. So look forward to seeing this one. Anything else on that fight night? How about I just run through the fight night for you, Joe, and you give us your picks.
Okay, yeah. You're going to go up from top 6 fights?
I'm going to surprise you.
Okay.
All over the place. All right, it's going to be Jamie Mullarkey and Michael Johnson.
I've got to go for Michael Johnson.
You just don't know what Michael Johnson you're going to get, do you?
It's a coin flip, and I'm flipping the coin and it says Johnson.
See, my version of Johnson, he only beats the good guys and then stumbles against the Jamie Mullarkeys of this world. Chase Sherman, 15-10 now in his MMA run. That's a Jared Vanderaa, who's 12-8. Will you be tuning in for that one, Joe? At heavyweight.
I tell you what, if it's a funny fight, then I might tune in for it. But
I'm thinking slop. It's a slop fest.
I'm gonna go with Sherman. Fuck it, why not?
Right. Then at bantamweight, we've got Douglas Andrade versus Said Nurmagomedov.
Oh, who by the way is not related to Khabib.
No, he is Dagestani though, and he does have the beard.
I'm going to go Andrade.
Ooh,
I think he's going to beat the beard. I think he's going to overcome it.
Not many men can say that. And then the co-main is Boralho versus Petrosian at middleweight.
Armin Petrosian. Did he fight in Glory? I think he fought in Glory. I'm going to go with Petrosian.
Now he's got a significant height advantage here. 191 centimeters versus 178. That's 6'3" versus 5'10".
I've got to go with the tall. Guy. So,
all right, the Cold War.
Yeah, Mo. Have I picked like the underdogs in all of these fights here? That was.
Well,
I mean, I don't know.
Petrosian last time out, he beat RoboCop. Just to underline that. So a man to watch. And we've got some good fighters now coming out of Armenia. So
I'm looking forward to the blokes in the crowd with their suits, buttons done all the way down to the belly button, cheering on our Armenian brethren.
The Sarukian crowd, the mafia.
Shout out to the Armenians, lads. Big fan. Right. Who did... he beat Morozov, didn't he, Andrade? That's who I was thinking of. That was a good fight. It's a good performance. Right. Have we got anything else to talk about, or do we want to just wrap this bad boy up?
I think we've probably covered everything there.
Smashed
this is a time when we got time for listener questions. So next time out, maybe we'll visit some of those.
Yes, listeners, email us.
Email us questions if you want at holdonbrother69@gmail.com. If you wish, don't worry, you won't get in trouble if you do. That's very gay porn. Hold on, brother 69. That's very gay porn.
Cool. That's how we like it around here. Yeah, that's. If you got any questions, email us. If you got any money that you want to give us, email us as well. I'm very much down with that. And Tom, I think we'll be back next week to talk about this card, this upcoming Fight Night card, and
a look ahead to the weekend after that. Yeah. So
which is what? I can't remember.
Well, Joe, from here on out, we'll be, I think, until the next numbered event comes around, we'll be doing one episode a week. We try to come out on a Wednesday. Yeah. So if you want to hear our preview of the next Fight Night card, you'll have to join us then. Perhaps then we've got Ortega fighting Yair Rodriguez, so a bit of movement there at featherweight. Maybe someone can stake a claim there, make the prospect Yair Rodriguez versus Volkanovski interesting with a big win there. But we'll get to that next week, Joe.
The week after that, UFC London, Blades versus Aspinall. So there's some good Fight Night cards coming up. And
absolutely.
We'll go into those. Right, listeners, thank you so much for joining us. And spread the word. Pass this podcast on to one of your friends, family even. Hopefully not your mother, but maybe your dad could get in on the banter. Because by the way, you're listening to this. We know you're a man. Okay, so just don't give this to your mum.
See you next time, Joe.
Yeah, see you next time, Tom. Have a good week.